Welcome to the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions, now in its 22nd season. Our panel features a longtime Penn State media and NitWits tag team, Neil Rudell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of Lions 247 with Fight on State. The NitWits are hosted by WTAJ Sports Director Peter Terpstra, and each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker Town & Country Real Estate, Blair County's home-a-day realtor. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By Encompass Health, a higher level of care. Encompass Healthcare. Ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. By Allegheny Street Cigar, Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAlear's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Freedom RV, get ready to tailgate this Penn State football season with Freedom RV Rentals. By Jethro's, serving ribs, steaks, Italian specialties, and the famous Prospector salad since 1983. Takeouts, delivery, and catering. By Lucky's Beer Distributor. Let Lucky's Beer get you ready for PSU game day. By Remax Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. Fullington Trailways, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from a variety of locations in State College and hotels in the Altoona area. Gio's Barbecue, award-winning hickory smoked ribs, chicken, and much more. By Star Beverage. No matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. By Lions 247 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
Welcome to Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome to Nittany Nation Overtime. We are the Nitwits. I'm Peter Terpstra. We got Neil. We have Mark and our special guest, Lou Prado. Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Penn State, of course, getting a win over Rutgers, the final game of the regular season, finishing 10-2. 27-6 was their final score. Didn't quite hit that the betting line or whatnot. But before we get to the game, we're going to kind of hit on a variety of topics, starting with Coach James Franklin and any kind of reports that he might be taking a job anywhere else or any kind of buzz or anything like that. Neil, you had a good question in the press conference, said, hey, here's your chance. You know, what do you have to say about your name popping up for Florida State or whatever it might be? And what did you think of his response, Mark?
Of Neil's response or
Franklin's response to Neil's question?
I mean, it was similar to what he said earlier in the season. It was a very good question. Usually Neil and I kid around on the show, but that was a question that needed to be asked, and it was a good question. But I've been saying for a week or so now, I will be absolutely shocked if they don't have a deal done for him before the bowl. I mean, from Penn State's perspective, I think everybody has to take one step back and realize where this program has come over the last however many years. Yeah, it's tough when you lose a couple of games. You know, yeah, I know people were disappointed about Rutgers, but all in all, if you look at where he has put this program, it's not elite yet, but it's right at that doorstep. And I think Penn State will be wise, is wise enough to take care of business and get him extended yet again. And that's for people who don't like this. It's the way the game is played anymore. Yeah. You see what happened at Minnesota, where they have the boat rower and they extended him. This is the way it works because you have to send messages out to recruits that, hey, this is going to be the guy who's been around. But to me, it's a no-brainer for Penn State to go ahead and get this done, and they will.
Yeah. You know, the timeliness of it, the fact that a lot of these stories really began to heat up in the last couple weeks, and they had been ongoing with Florida State. But then you started to see where you wondered, I mean, could this have been the last we had seen him? And, you know, I think for Penn State fans, this is an encouraging piece of news because it's really the first where he said, we want to get this over soon. He made a public statement that it seemed like Sandy briefly said afterwards, she said, what are you talking about? She was laughing. She said, but I think we're good. And so it started to put the pieces together that there's a contract extension hopefully in the works. And when you look at this football team and what it's built for next year, I don't think there's anyone else that could come in here and have them better positioned to maximize their potential than James Franklin next year.
I'd like to give you a little historical perspective. In 1966, we had a new coach named Joe Paterno. Over the next 7 years, several things happened. One, Joe was offered a job at, offered a job at Michigan that Bo Schembechler took. And then later on, he after the 68 Orange Bowl, the 69 Orange Bowl, 68 team, he actually flew to Pittsburgh. I was on the plane with him, covering the game of that. And he was going to interview with the Steelers. Turned that down. A guy named Chuck Noll took that job. And then, well, let's just skip forward. He became this hot coach. And in 1972, at the Sugar Bowl, they were playing at the old Tulane Stadium on December 31st. And Billy Sullivan, the owner of the Patriots, was chasing Joe all over the town. And I was there, covering again. So he was in the restaurants and all that. And actually, go back and remember, Joe wrote about that. He actually, that Thursday after the game, we lost the game to Oklahoma. They had ineligible players. It was later protested. But that Thursday, Joe made up his mind to go ahead and take the Patriots job, take Jim Tarman with him up there, slept on it overnight, and said, wait a minute. Remember the famous line he used, something about you woke up, went to bed with a multimillionaire, and you woke up with something to his wife? Yeah. So, that was his 7th year.
Right.
So we're sort of, history does repeat itself in a way. Now, times were different back then. I admit that. I mean, this is a much different atmosphere. But I also heard from some people on the inside that they actually had a contract signed with Coach Franklin. There was a little holdup because he wanted a little more money for his assistants. He wanted more money for Lash, and they just said, let's just wait a minute. Now, I don't know how accurate this is, but where there's smoke, there's fire. So, I mean, let's face it, folks. We got the death penalty a few years ago. We shouldn't even be where we're at now.
Now 10-2.
Yeah, I'm a fan as well as the historian, but I could just imagine what would happen if it wasn't for that Bill O'Brien at 2012 team and how they came about. So that's a little of the historical perspective.
Appreciate it. Another domino fell in Penn State's positive direction, I would say. After the game, Pat Freiermuth, obviously a prepared kind of statement and social media release that he plans on returning to Penn State for his junior season, which is kind of a different a different situation than what you normally see.
Well, he went to a prep school, so that gave him the ability to leave a year earlier than most people would leave. And he's a little bit of an older kid, but I think this is fantastic news.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about somebody who's really at the core of their receiving game, and not only is he a great receiver and tight end himself, he makes everybody else better. I mean, we saw it, Jahan Dotson said yesterday one of the reasons he was open on that play is because Rutgers, on this touchdown play, Rutgers kind of geared toward Freiermuth. You're losing Nick Bowers. You have Brenton Strain's a really good young tight end. I think Kuntz could be a good tight end, but not to this level yet. So to get this guy back as part of that passing game is going to be huge. And maybe some other players look at that and say, you know what? Maybe it's worth sticking around for one more year. A KJ Hamler. I'm not sure about Etor, but there are other people who are going to have to make some decisions.
If he doesn't get hurt, he'll go down in history next to Kyle Brady and Ted Kwolek. They were the three. There are a lot of good tight ends.
Well, statistically, he's going to be better than all of them.
But and he may go down eventually as the best. But I mean, I just hope he avoids injury. I mean, we all know how that can happen. But that's one of the great things that happened over the weekend. Him deciding.
All right, we got to get to Rutgers. Coming up next on Nittany Nation Overtime, Penn State took down a struggling team with a backup quarterback. We're going to give our thoughts on that one next.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker Town & Country Real Estate, Blair County's home-a-day realtor. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By Encompass Health, a higher level of care. Encompass Healthcare. Ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Solaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
welcome back to the show. Penn State coming off of what I would call a workmanlike win over Rutgers. I think when I gave my prediction, I was like, oh, they're going to score 70 points. I mean, that obviously wasn't going to be the case when you have Will Levis stepping in. We found out before the game that Sean Clifford would not play. What do you think of first off, Will stepping in, the job that he did, and kind of, can we expect Clifford to come back? I mean, we don't know as far as injury status go, but we do have some time for him to rest.
I think Clifford's stock probably went up, a little bit yesterday in his absence. I think Will Levis really is a tough kid and a competitor. I was a little surprised he didn't throw the deep ball better because he looks like he has a pretty strong arm. Maybe that was to be expected in his first start. I think they're running the quarterback too much. It's 36 times in the last 2 weeks, and they're getting quarterbacks injured, and I think they have to. That's one of the things I think they have to reevaluate.
We've seen Levis hit those passes in practice, so he can do it. I thought where they did him a little bit of a disservice is they didn't kind of draw up some more short stuff. What has happened to the running back as a receiving option, especially with kind of a new quarterback? I mean, they had one target to a running back, Journey Brown, in that game yesterday. And from my perspective, what better way, a screen pass, dump it, the short stuff. I'm not talking the screen behind the line to KJ Hamler.
Right.
I'm talking about get your backs involved. But overall, I think the kid acquitted himself well, ran very hard, but you're right. They have to watch out.
You mentioned about going to practice, and you see things. I have a feeling he must not have been impressive in other practices, because my opinion, being up there watching him, was that they didn't trust him. I mean, that's the bottom line. They didn't seem to trust him, so he was running more than they trusted him throwing passes.
But you say, and we talked about Freiermuth, usually how you treat an inexperienced quarterback is get him some real early feeds, get some confidence built in him, and Freiermuth caught one ball.
Yeah, so that's what I was surprised they didn't try to work more of that medium range passing stuff to him.
And Journey Brown had another stellar game. I mean, I think we all can say he looks to be the number one back. He had some injuries to Noah Cain, and he was playing with a heavy heart. Really kind of an emotional day for him, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, his cousin passed away. This is and for him to respond in the way he did, I think speaks highly of him. This was a guy who came in with a reputation as being a track star playing football. And I can tell you that now you look at him, and we just saw a clip, this is a football player. This kid is not just running away from people. He's running tough up in the hole. I mean, he's a good, solid, Big Ten running back, and it's been impressive to see how he's developed.
Hey, so averaging 6.1 per carry, making yards after the carry. I thought just generally yesterday they were somewhat of a distracted football team.
Yeah.
And Rutgers, I give Rutgers a ton of credit. I thought they played just so hard given what they've been through. But you talk about Freiermuth making that announcement, which I think is great news, and I think it was good that he got that out before the bowl game, because that would have been a constant thread through the bowl preparation. Even James yesterday, I wonder how much that's been on their minds. You saw it in the bowl game where all these guys put out their announcements immediately afterwards. I wonder how much that is seeping into their mindset.
It just didn't seem to be enough plays that they went straight ahead. They seemed to be when he delayed and had to do something. The offensive line wasn't blocking for him as well. Once he gets through, man, he breaks them. And he's a very dangerous runner when he does that. One
thing I think that this team has to get past, it clearly over the last couple of years, we've seen when this team loses a game, there is a hangover the next week. Now, sometimes if you're playing at Rutgers, you're going to be able to survive, or even in Indiana, which is a good team, but not quite as good as Penn State. But if this team hopes to get to that next level, you have to be able to put a loss behind you. You could win a national title with one loss. You can't win a national title with two losses.
Yep.
And so this is something that I think when we want to be fairly critical of the coaching staff, this is on the coaching staff. They have to figure out how to get these players to play well after a loss, because there's still a lot to play for.
And that's going to be obviously huge. And we've talked about it last show after the loss to Ohio State, kind of big picture that Penn State wants to take that next step to what we would call, that whole great first elite thing. Next year, we'll see what happens. Coming up next, it was not all groovy on Saturday. We break down where Penn State can get better before the bowl next.
The NitWits are being brought to you by Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Freedom RV. Get ready to tailgate this Penn State football season with Freedom RV Rentals. By Jethro's, serving ribs, steaks, Italian specialties, and the famous Prospector salad since 1983. Takeouts, delivery, and catering. By Lucky's Beer Distributor. Let Lucky's Beer get you ready for PSU game day. By Remax Results Realty Group. Committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
All right, let's really dig into this Rutgers game and what that kind of might mean going forward into the bowl season for Penn State. A closer game, I would say, than most expected for sure. Obviously, you had some limitations on the offense there, playing with your backup quarterback. You had a lot of guys injured, and of course, in the wide receiver, thinner with Justin Shorter entering the transfer portal, and he wasn't out there.
Yeah, and I think that you've seen a depletion of the receiver core either through injuries or defections now. I was surprised the kid left before the end of at least the regular season. Yeah. I think they gave him a lot of opportunity. I don't know what the behind-the-scenes stuff is with the kids anymore, but you know, he was injured a lot his first year. They went to him, really kind of built the early part of the game plan around him at Minnesota. Didn't work out. He dropped a ball. He didn't necessarily prevent an interception early when the tone was being set. And then against Ohio State, late, when they were still in the game, he drops a ball on an out pattern on first down, and then he runs a 5-yard curl when they needed 7 yards on a third down. So they gave him some opportunity. I think it's unfortunate it didn't work out.
Yeah, you guys know that I've been talking him up since he arrived on campus, and I still think he has the ability to be an outstanding receiver physically, you know, either at Penn State or more likely somewhere else. This is just kind of the way things are now. And, you know, obviously there's family input. The family loves the kid. They want what's best for him. But I think sometimes these decisions are made in a rash manner. You know, there's no reason why you couldn't wait an extra week or so and make this after the bowl, or make this after the regular season finale, and not take the focus away from the seniors who deserve to be honored on senior day.
I'd like to ask you guys a question. Jeff Ironhead, our friend, the wrestling guru, he was on the post-game show, and he indicated he thought maybe the conditioning needed to be looked at, the weight training and all that type of stuff. What do you
mean
guys?
For the whole program?
Well, to the football guys, because the way that the injuries occurred, and they seem to be out of gas. They seem to be tired in the second half. What do you think?
We're talking about Jeff Byers.
Yeah, Jeff. What do you think?
I don't know. They seem to do tremendous at the combine and boost their stock.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put much stock in that. And I love Jeff. Jeff's a friend, but I think if you take a look at where they've been in terms of testing at the combine, in terms of typically what they're able to do later in games, I don't know that it boils down to their conditioning. I think that's been more of an X's and O's type thing.
And I think the Penn State coaching staff looked at the opponent, looked at Rutgers, and I think that factored into a lot of the guys, you know, that might not have played.
You're saying they didn't treat it like the Super Bowl?
Well, Journey Brown admitted they underestimated them some. So yeah,
of course they did.
Well, they also wanted to win. I mean, because that kid that I can't pronounce his name, the running back. Not only is he running, but their team was pushing him.
Ferdy's great-grandson. Just kidding.
I mean, he really impressed him.
Yeah, and I thought at times, like, they pinned him deep, and Rutgers was able to drive the length of the field there before the half, didn't get that field goal. You saw some of the same kind of problems that they've had in the latter half of the season on defense, whether that be some poor pass defense or some poor run defense. Is this something that they can correct for the bowl game, and maybe we'll see, you know, the pass rush from the first half of the season?
Well, I was surprised they let Rutgers hold the ball as long as they did. Rutgers made a 15-play, 13-play drive. You just don't think they should be able to do that against the kind of defense that you think Penn State should be at this point. And some of that might be their run defense. They may be, you know, that lost Gross Matos yesterday, or he didn't play. So I think those are something that's an issue going into the bowl game.
That pushing the pile stuff, I couldn't figure that out. I mean, it's legal, but I mean, how could Penn State not figure out how to stop this. This was another one of those games, and Neil and I got into about offense and defense last week, but I think if you take an objective look at this, this is another game where as you're watching it unfold, you're looking at things with the defense saying, what are they doing here? What are they doing here? What are they doing here? Then at the end of the game, they give up 6 points.
Yep.
Right.
And
They held an opponent below its average. So the end result is fine, but there were definitely some issues to be noted.
Before you forget about it, remember what our punter did too. And
Yes.
They're going to miss him.
I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
huge loss.
I mean, there was a lot of ways. You know, he doesn't get any credit sometimes for those punts he makes just to back up the other team. And I still wonder. You know, I understand using him, you know, KJ, back there to do all that stuff, but it's still a possible injury. I mean, I hope they develop somebody else back there that can do some of the same things, because I mean, he almost broke one yesterday.
Yeah, he had a good
Well,
day.
I've actually come over to your side a little bit. I'm glad you've come over to mine. I thought the offensive line yesterday was very pedestrian.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they allowed 4 sacks to Rutgers when Levis is trying to get his feet underneath him. I didn't see them necessarily taking control of they were never in danger of losing. But I'm talking about leaving anybody with a feeling of that they really are ending the season on an exclamation point.
The whole thing kind of seemed damp, you know, like big holiday weekend.
Wet blanket.
The stadium wasn't packed, wasn't as loud.
Wait a minute. Give those fans credit for being
True.
The ones who were there.
Once they were there,
The ones that were there were great.
But you know, I was surprised by that, because Penn State's one of those schools that will always pack the stands.
Well, not necessarily for a post-Thanksgiving game.
No,
That's
I
been a
guess.
challenge.
Yeah.
You know, hey, the Big Ten's been really good for them in a lot of ways, but it took Pitt away from your season finale, or they took Pitt away, whatever it is.
There we
There
go.
weren't that many teams. Pitt, Notre Dame, were about the only teams that were going to fill that stadium after the Thanksgiving break with the students on vacation.
You should just be happy that the pipes didn't freeze in the
That's
press box,
okay.
and you can.
I'm grateful.
I said that when I
Lights went
got
out
there.
in the men's
All
bathroom
right,
later.
coming up next, we take a look at how the Nitwit of the Year standings are shaping up and what's next heading into the bowl season. We'll see you then.
The Nitwits are being brought to you by Dorman's Jewelry. The answer is always Dorman's. Fullington Trailways, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from a variety of locations in State College and hotels in the Altoona area. Gio's Barbecue, award-winning hickory smoked ribs, chicken, and much more. By Star Beverage. No matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. By Lions 247 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back to Nittany Nation Overtime. We're going to wrap things up, but first, like every week, there's always a winner. Let's take a look at our Nitwit of the Year standings. And Neil, you won this last week. Congratulations. Obviously, no predictions this week. We don't know when or who Penn State's going to play next when it comes to the bowl game. Obviously, that's going to be tied with the Big Ten Championship, how Ohio State and Wisconsin, how all that goes down. But we do plan on having a pre-bowl show to get you caught up in what to watch for in that one. But, of course, we don't know where they're going yet. It's been a great year. I learned a little thing about math and strategy when it came to the
You haven't seen strategy yet, I'm telling you.
Oh, so that's a precursor, of course.
Well, one thing I'll say is, I mean, this is 10 wins. It's a hopeful or likely New Year's Bowl, New Year's Six Bowl for the third time in 4 years. But I think it's important, no matter who they play where, that they play well. To carry some real momentum into next year. They have a lot of excellent players returning, experienced players, but I think this bowl is, really lasts a while. They were, recovered from the last loss in the bowl game, and I think this one will be a little different in terms of the opportunity for momentum.
There's a lot of moving pieces in the works, but I think it would be big for them if they were able to get to a Rose Bowl, because then they would have been in 3 New Year's Six Bowls in 4 years, which I think is a really good statement for the program.
But the Orange Bowl wouldn't be bad either.
Yeah, but even if, well, either one of them, but even if you don't get there, they're going to really need guys to get healthy, because we could see in that game against Rutgers that, with the number of people they had banged up, it's going to be tough to compete against the higher echelon teams with that many guys injured. The one thing I think people are kind of forgetting, if they could somehow get to the Rose Bowl and Oregon can somehow win that Pac-12 title game, 25 years we'll have Goon back on to talk about the anniversary of that Rose Bowl.
All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll check in with you before the bowl game.
You.
Thanks, Lou, for coming on. We'll see you later.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker Town & Country Real Estate, Blair County's home-a-day realtor. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By Encompass Health, a higher level of care. Encompass Healthcare. Ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. By Allegheny Street Cigar, Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAlear's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Freedom RV, get ready to tailgate this Penn State football season with Freedom RV Rentals. By Jethro's, serving ribs, steaks, Italian specialties, and the famous Prospector salad since 1983. Takeouts, delivery, and catering. By Lucky's Beer Distributor. Let Lucky's Beer get you ready for PSU game day. By Remax Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. Fullington Trailways, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from a variety of locations in State College and hotels in the Altoona area. Gio's Barbecue, award-winning hickory smoked ribs, chicken, and much more. By Star Beverage. No matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. By Lions 247 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.